Alright, and welcome back to Satisfactory. Today we're going to be taking a look at getting our space elevator built and unlocking our next tiers, as well as building a factory to build the component parts we need to do that. Now, before we get into that, I wanted to talk about what I've done between episodes. I have played just a little bit. The big thing was that I went around and I gathered a ton of biomass and wood and leaves and things in order to power our factory. If you look, you can see that we're running a little low on biofuel there, but we have tons and tons of stuff in our solid biofuel factory here, and hopefully this will provide us with all of the solid biofuel we need in order to get through the rest of this tier. I also wanted to show you guys the lizard doggo pen I made. I found out that the two lizard doggos I'd tamed before, one of them unfortunately fell off a cliff and died. So I put the other one in a nice, safe room here. What I discovered was that lizard doggos will despawn if they don't have a platform underneath them, a foundation underneath them. So I built this foundation, surrounded it by walls, and then set up this ramp so that when we come in, the lizard doggos can follow us in, and then once they come over into this pen area, they will be safe and sound in here. And you can see that this lizard doggo has found some radioactive waste for us, which is unfortunate. So we'll have to figure out a safe way to deal with that. For now, we can probably just find a place out of the way where we're not going to be doing anything and drop it. So let's just put it in there. And then as we build up more and more waste, we can find a better use for it. I believe there are, as of update 4, and there is an endgame use for this radioactive waste. So as long as we don't go too near that box, we should be fine. Factory down here by where we're going to build our next couple factories. I also gathered the materials for a space elevator, which we will get set up in just a moment. Now, the space elevator is tremendously expensive, so it's going to take a lot of materials, and we will end up setting it up here on the hills behind our new concrete factory, because I found up here 2 iron veins that are impure, so this is a total of 60 iron per minute, as well as a copper vein. Now, the copper vein is not going to be critically important to what we're doing now, but I've also noticed that if we look at our constructor, we have a new copper recipe, and that is for a copper sheet. And so I figured that we could use this space in a dual purpose, where we have in this large flat area here our factory for our smart plating, which is our project assembly part we need for our first tier unlock, and up above on the tier there we can have a copper sheet factory. Now, this is a normal copper vein, and so that'll produce 60 copper sheets, or 60 copper per minute. A copper sheet constructor only takes 20 of those, which means we can have 3 of those running, and that will be another thing that we can hook up a second awesome sink to in order to generate a lot of points, because copper is not a hard to come by material, but because it'll be so plentiful and we won't need all that many copper sheets, it'll be a good way to make use of the spares. Alright, I've gone ahead and laid out the foundation for our smart plating factory here, and I went ahead and did some calculations on what we're going to need here. In order to properly make use of 60 iron ore coming in per second, we're going to be making 2.58 smart plates per minute, which is a little more than you can make with a standard recipe, which will take, or rather, which would create 2 per minute. Now, in order to accomplish that, we'll be running 2 assemblers, but in order to provide that, we're also going to need assemblers for the reinforced iron plate and the rotors. Those components will each make use of iron plates, iron rods, and screws, and we'll be using our alternate cast screw recipe. Now, we're going to need a total of 4 constructors for that. So we're going to do this as a factory in 3 layers, with our first layer being constructors, our second layer directly above that being our first set of assemblers, making the plates and rotors, and then a third layer on top of that making our smart plating. Those are then going to go into a storage bin where we can pick them out, and we'll also start funneling some into a space elevator. You can see that we've got our two miners and our two smelters sending a constant supply of iron in coming into our four constructors. And then as we climb up the conveyor ladder, we can see our two assemblers producing rotors and reinforced iron plates. Those are then being sent up to the top level where they are being turned into smart plating. Now, this is not producing at what you might call a prodigious rate at this time, but it is efficient, or it will be at least 100% efficient when it is all primed and ready. We're using a variation on a manifold splitter system here, which is going to allow some of these, you may see some of these constructors are shutting down because they can't get enough iron. What's going to happen is the incoming iron is going to be split evenly between all four machines at the start. Now, some of these machines are using less than 15 iron per minute. Since we have 16 coming in, split four ways, that's 15. This one's only using 12.9, which means we're building up a backlog of iron ingots in this machine. We're up to 29 here, and eventually this is going to hit 100. When that hits 100, that backlog is going to overflow along the belt, and this pathway will start receiving less iron ingots. It will only receive as many as it uses. The excess will then overflow into the other systems. And so here we have another one that's also got a backlog, and that one's up to 43. Here we have one that is not backlogging, but it will, once those two start backlogging, this machine will become fully efficient. And then once all three of those are, then our plate machine will also become fully efficient. This is also going to happen on the second floor and on the third floor. So I expect it'll take about 20 minutes in order for this to reach 100% efficiency, but it will reach 100% efficiency. The math has been worked out. The numbers are crunched. And this factory will be producing with exactly 60 iron per minute, the maximum number of smart plating that we can with those materials. All right, we had a little bit of a hiccup. I placed the splitters too close to the conveyor lifts, and so they weren't properly receiving atoms. That has been corrected, and now the assemblers on the top level are underway. We have one of these set to 100% efficiency, and the other one is set to 29% efficiency. Now, unfortunately, this is overloading our power grid, and it's not even that we are running out of fuel, it's that we've actually exceeded the amount of power that our grid is capable of. It's a 240 megawatt grid, and we have 277 megawatts of machinery, so I'm going to have to either shut off some equipment elsewhere in the factory or expand my biomass burner power plant in order to accommodate this. But that just highlights the need for us to complete this project so that we can get on to more advanced power systems. All right, I went ahead and added a couple more biomass burners, as well as shutting down our awesome sink and a secondary concrete factory I'd made. And that has allowed our operation here to get back up and running. We have gotten our first smart plating in from our factory upstairs. Let's go ahead and pop up and make sure that those are producing as we expect them to. And then we will get underway with wrapping this building and finishing off this factory. We can see we've got resources coming in on both belts and being produced there. And then this one is also producing one. So we are good. And that should slowly build up. I think it'll take about 20 minutes for us to get all of the smart plating we need to complete this tier. What we're going to do with that smart plating is we are going to put them in the space elevator. And the space elevator has a beautiful animation when it first is placed. One of the most epic buildings I have seen, and I always love watching it not just complete because you can see the scale of it, but also watching as the space component of it comes down and hooks in. Wow, it's glorious. Now, in order to use the space elevator, what we're going to need to do is take our smart plating here and run that around. We don't actually have enough plates on us to do the whole thing from where that is, but what we can do is set up another storage container right below this and set up a conveyor belt just a little bit closer. And so once we have our 50 smart plating, we can place them into this storage container. That will load them into the space elevator, at which point we will be able to send them off and unlock tiers 3 and 4. Now, this isn't the permanent location for our space elevator. It's something that we can deconstruct and move around as we want. But I wanted to go ahead and get it set up so that when we are ready, we have the capacity to do that straight away. And that is a building all complete for our new smart plating factory. Now that this building is done, we can go ahead and see where we're at with our smart plating production. And if we're getting close to that 50, that magical 50 number, then we can go ahead and get those shifted. We're only at about 20 right now. So we'll go ahead and let this run it in the background a little bit. And I think I'm going to gather some more biomass while that finishes up. Here's a useful tip I have found while exploring, looking for fun things to kill for biomass. If you can place a conveyor pole at the top of a unclimbable thing, you can then take a conveyor belt and hook it into a conveyor pole on the ground. You can create the climbable conveyor. Now it's important to clear these up when you are done, unless you are trying to rid the world of monsters, because monsters will not spawn within a certain range of any building, no matter how big or small, and that includes conveyor belts and poles. But if we can clear these out, then these monsters will come back in a little while, and we will be able to fight them another time for more of their biomass. All right, we are up to 50 smart plating here. So let's go ahead and take that on over and get our space elevator upgraded to or use our space elevator to upgrade our access to tiers 3 and 4. We'll go ahead and just drop those smart plates in there, and they will be piped into our space elevator. And then once we get to 50, we should be good to send this. All right, we are up to 50 smart plating in our space elevator. So let's go ahead and seal this package and send it off. All right, and now that that is done, I believe if we check the space elevator, we can actually see what we need to do for our next one. So we're going to need 500 more smart plating, which is great because we've already got a factory for it, so we won't need to worry too much about that. We are going to need versatile frameworks and automated wiring. So those are things we'll sort out how to do here in the coming days. But for now, let's go ahead and clean up this space elevator and head on back to the hub to see what is up next in our new tiers. All right, back at the hub here, we can see that tier 3 contains coal power, which is probably the first thing we're going to want to look into. It's going to take some cabling. We have plenty of some rotors and some reinforced iron plates. We should be good on all of that. That'll give us access to coal generators, water extractors, pipelines, pumps, fluid buffers, and the ability to scan for coal. I have found one coal node, but I would like to, it wasn't anywhere near water, and I believe you need both for the coal generator, so we might do some exploring to find that. We also have access to vehicular transport, so we can build trucks, or truck stations rather, and tractors, and then begin producing steel. In the advanced tier 4, we have access to advanced steel production, so I think we're going to have to complete tier 3 before we can get that. That'll give us upgraded miners, as well as one of our project parts. The ability to improve our melee combat, it looks like, with an upgraded weapon, a Xeno Basher. Hyper tubes, which I believe are for transportation. And then Logistics Mark III, which will let us use the further upgraded conveyor belts and larger storage containers. And so those are all things that I'm very excited for us to dive into, dig into, and very much looking forward to exploring. While I was between clips, I did see a announcement today that they have a release date for Update 5. That's coming about a month from now. And so I think we'll still be in this world, and I don't actually know that we'll be at a time and a place where that's going to affect our factory yet. One of the things that's highlighted in Update 5 is that it's only going to be cosmetic changes, with the exception to a couple of little things in a different region of the map, in the desert region, which I do want to build a factory in the desert region here in a little while. But I think we are going to sort of be working our way there. I think we're actually at the opposite corner of the map from the desert, so we've got quite a bit of work to do before we get there, and so I'm not too worried about us getting to that before Update 5 releases. So we'll go ahead and update this world when Update 5 comes out, and then just take advantage of whatever's new to come back and refurbish all these factories that are in place and to construct the new ones. We go from there. All right, and with our new factory all done, I think that is where we will wrap up for today. I think in our next episode, we'll dig into coal power and get a coal power plant set up. And so thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, I'd love to hear 'em. Otherwise, have a great day.